discuss about the research ethics and writing. And for this, we have with us Dr. Jyotirmayee Tudu ma'am. Madam is Associate Professor, Center for Political Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And sir has, madam has a lot of experience on the research writing, and madam has completed several research projects of the ICSSR uh, and other agencies. Madam has published many research paper on the international national journal, and I request again to Professor Dr. Jyotirmayee Tudu madam. Madam, you're most welcome on the behalf of the IRSA and on the behalf of the all participants. I request to you, ma'am. Now this stage is your. So please enlighten us, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikas, for inviting me to have a conversation with young research scholars about the research ethics and also that the art how to publish. So basically, the journey begins with the concern that when UGC mandated for all the universities in India that there must be a compulsory course for all the PhD scholars. I think all most of the participants are PhD scholars because
Ma'am, most of the
hello.
participants, almost 85% participants are the research scholar. Only 10%, 10 to 15% are the assistant professor, ma'am.
Okay. So basically, my concern here is that while UGC come up with the mandatory guidelines that all the universities they must float a course on research ethics, research and publication ethics. So from that time, actually, the struggle begins with that how actually those who are doing PhDs and those who wanted to go for publication, how actually they will follow the ethical practices in order to make their work acceptable by the journals, and also that how to learn the technique, that how to these issues found to be in a much more elaborative form, that particularly that when UGC have come up with the guidelines. But such initiatives were also present earlier there. It is not like that when UGC have come up with the guidelines, so then only the rush towards following the ethical practices in the publication process found to be visible. But adherence to the ethical principles was also early, it actually predates to that. It's not just only confining to the issuance of the guidelines of the UGC. Anyway, my what I have chosen to deliver that on authorship and research ethics. So being a coordinator, because this course which is compulsory for all the university departments to follow or conduct. So I am here also, I'm coordinating that program. So with having more than 2 years experience in coordinating it, what I have learned that as per so far as my initial anticipation or anxiety was concerned, that whether research and publication ethics is about research methodology or is it something different. So initially, actually, I presumed that it might had some thing with the research methodology. But after undergoing a series of curriculum and text with regard to that, what I have learned that it is the research methodology is different and research and publication ethics is different. Though both of the papers or both of the curriculums, they are found to be considered to be same for most of the students, and also among also the faculties, that those who are not usually regularly taking those courses as paper. Okay, I mean to say that they are not teaching this. I'm not here. I don't want to mean here. Here is that somebody who is publishing a paper automatically some publishing house contacted them, and they within their correspondence that there is an exchange between the author and the publishing house, and is automatically been ensured by the concerned publishing house. So here the publishing houses or the journals who are publishing, so they actually, it is their responsibility to directly communicate to the authors that about that what are their guidelines towards the publication. So whoever may be interested in publishing, so they used to go by, they used to follow those guidelines. So people are not.
No, ma'am, not visible.
Okay, okay, just. Is it visible
Yes,
now?
ma'am. Now visible. Now visible, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
So the first, so these are some of the questions which I have taken together to discuss for the discussion. Like I have posed the question and come to the third question: why authorship matters to us. So basically, these two questions, the first one and the third one, for the participant who are part of this interaction. So that question, I expect answers from you that why actually we wanted to be those who are in academia, we wanted to be an author. So anyone would like to respond? Anyone? Any, just I just want to know. Are you getting my question or not? That suppose that being a research scholar, that why actually you want to be an author? It appears to be very simple, very answer exactly will be will come from you. Anyone?
To get our
Please
ideas recorded,
tell it.
to
Huh?
get our ideas recorded and published, so that
To get your ideas recorded. Okay. So basically, no doubt, recording or documenting ideas, writing about our own ideas, definitely is a great thing. That where we, particularly those who wanted to express their ideas through an innovative way, and trying to explain it through writing. So it not only provides a sense of satisfaction to them, but at the same time, here that in the present context, I'm taking taking into consideration the present time where we are located and the kind of engagement we are associated with, being a teacher, being a research scholar, being a PhD scholar, working for the research institute. Along with our job, we also wanted to be recognized. Okay, so it is the human aspiration, it is the aspiration of the person concerned that if he or she is into the writing, so inner desire is that to get recognition. Okay, that somebody, it's obvious. Okay, it's obvious thing that we need recognition to be labeled as author, to recognize an author, that we have created certain work, and especially it will be a very prestigious matter if we are producing a very scientific work. Okay. So idea of the author and how authorship have come up as a central theme in the for the research scholars, for the teachers. So basically here it is not just about the recording of our ideas or disseminating information or disseminating our viewpoints. It also about the recognition. So with this, actually, we are confronting certain terms like author and authorship, researcher and author. So these kinds of these words you will counter while you will try to make a review of literature, like who is an author, who is a researcher. Okay, so whether the author or researcher need to be equally be treated while authorship is claimed. So such kind of things you will, or you could say the deconstruct the idea of authorship or author through the review of literature. So the point here is that the question which I have raised, I'm gradually going to address in the subsequent sections. So let me proceed to the concept of authorship. So what I have gone through the literature, what I have found that most of the writings on authorship that and that discussion associated with authorship, basically authorship as a concept evolves with the increasing demand for scientific writing. So presently, writing with a scientific temper, but whether be responsive or to be accountable to its work. So, what about the issue that while conducting or writing that work, whether that author has taken so all these issues to be necessary to be discussed while we are taking into account the idea of the authorship. So as science has grown more complex in terms of claims of more than one authors, so presently we are coming across that the publications with having joint authors or multiple authors. So in that context, actually, that concern arises that what constitutes authorship. Okay, and such concern have evolved with the case that whether the authorship where it is assigned is due to that person or it is not due. Okay, like I want to little bit explain it more elaborately, like of course I have given the example, you can read that. Okay, like the students are in a vulnerable position while working on a research project with faculty members and are at risk for exploitation. So gradually the writings, the publications, that the presence of exploitation also prevailed with regard to the claim of authorship. So here basically they are admitting that they are trying to claim authorship, that here the possibility of conflict always persist. And along with that conflict, the possibility of the power and also the dominance and marginalization also persist. So that's why that the demand, while there is a demand for increasing demand for scientific writing, so in that people are very much, or scholars are very much concerned that they need recognition, no doubt, but for what? Maybe to get a job, very in a simple term, you may say that, to get a job, to get promotion, to be accommodated in a high ranking position, and also to get to popularize, to get the level of popularity through their work. So here, while it is now such kind of in this way, the idea of authorship is expanding. So it invites lot of found to be which are actually prevail there, but these issues remain peripheral uh, in the eyes of the mainstream, particularly in the eyes of the public. That okay, the person whom we are considering as author, actually that author is really, or that person is really uh, um, is a real author or not. Like you might have heard the term ghost author and honorary author. Okay, so here the concern is that, is it the case that authorship where it is assigned is not due? Then a more invisible problem may be the failure to assign authorship where it is due. Okay, so basically, these concerns are raised by the scholars like Jason Osborne, then Abigail Holland. So they have written extensively about how to actually determine authorship, and they critically evaluated that the guidelines which generally been followed by the journals, the publishing house, how far they are really sensitive about providing an objective, neutral framework to create guidelines for authorship. Okay, so here we are getting that as the necessity of the publication or the demand for publication is increasing by the academic institutions, academic institutions becoming the major trend to conduct a particular scholarly work. So in that context, those who are associated with that team work, whether the benefit, the credit of authorship really shared among them or not. So with this actually the contestation aspect with the authorship begins. Okay, then why application of research ethics is necessary for authorship? So if you go by the literature who have extensively written about that who is an author or authorship, basically you will found broadly I am classifying them into broad categories. One is from those analysis on the guidelines, those who are specialized in the guidelines, recipe guidelines provided by ethical code. So those scholar who is interested to submit their work to the concerned publishing house, so they must fulfill those in order to justify them that they have followed the ethical standard while preparing that draft. Okay, so that is one way of one group of literature which you will get if you do the survey of literature on this theme. Then other group of scholars, they are writing about that the historical context, why actually authorship as a, can we consider authorship as a concept, is there any discourse associated with authorship, so how authorship have evolved as a phenomenon in the present day, and particularly in the modern world. So, what about the case, those literature which were existing in pre-modern era? So, all these concerns are generally explored, found to be explored by those scholars who are essentially trying to maintain the autonomy or critical about the existing guidelines provided by different agencies. Okay, so why they are critical about? For that, I just wanted to address the question that okay, no doubt, if authorship is about recognition, if authorship about the dissemination of knowledge, then it's a very good thing. Then why? And it also motivate
ज्वाइन करने में क्या है, मैं चल जा सकता हूँ, उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, क्या दिक्कत है?
are who wanted to creative writing, and it will also enable us to sharpen our brain and to be the part of intellectual creativity. Then what is why actually we essentially need to abide by the research ethics? So for that actually there is a necessity to identify the ethical problems, like somebody who is conducting research, that maybe that person is in a hurry to get the get her work published as soon as possible, so that she can increase her API rank, and also the student who in a hurry to publish it, because for which is requirement for the, which may help for the submission process. So in that process actually generally ethical problems are generally been sidelined. Okay, so here I will not say that that only who is creating that work, who is trying to develop that work, intentionally always not considered the ethical problems. It may also occur due to with an in an unintentional way. So both intentional and unintentional dimension prevailed while we are coming with the relationship between the authorship and research ethics. But a responsible scholar is one that who must have the capacity to identify the ethical problems associated with her work. So in that context, actually, that a kind of sensitization, a kind of consciousness needs to be there, and the person concerned must be open to listen and open to also invite the critical appreciation that how actually his work to be acceptable, and whether by doing that work, whether she is not affecting anyone. So for that the researcher must be prepared, or the scholar must be prepared. So in that regard, identification of ethical problems is a first step towards that. So it begins with the instances of like conducting harms, like while you are going to conduct any study, So, are you harming anyone? Consciousness needs to be there or needs to be addressed while conducting the work. Okay, and similarly, that who is going to be get benefited out of it. So in that process, are you not harming anyone, or are you not actually taking away the benefit of somebody who deserves it? Like you can take any example, like somebody is not a literate person, okay, but you see or he has the capacity to frame to have the capacity of narration, to articulation, okay, and also in that process that person may create some literary thing through orally. So in that context, if somebody is listening to that, if somebody is documenting to that, so if that person is not acknowledging or not sharing the authorship, actually here the real author, that who created it, if we go by the reality, but whether while publishing that, whether that benefit is being credited to that person or not, that is a very serious question, needs to be addressed while discussing the concept of authorship. Then also the ratio, the risk benefit ratio, like how far actually you are affecting a sentiment. If you talk about the case of the individual community, so how far actually the concerned researcher, the concerned scholar is addressing that. Okay. Then also autonomy, like how far the concerned researcher autonomously have tried to decide that what is ethics in her work. So whether there is any kind of really, whether the ethical codes which are being accepted as a model ethical course by the intellectual community, by the academia, so how far actually they are recognizing the autonomy of the concerned research scholar in explaining her ideas, and also particularly with regard to the empirical work. Then also the issues of partnership and professionalism, like suppose you are conducting a study and funded by some agencies. So their guidelines, the mode of agreement, the conditions of providing terms and conditions to provide grant for conducting the research work what you are conducting. So how far you are acknowledging that partnership, and of course the professionalism, that while dealing with the work, how you are supposed to display the professional behavior, not just to display and also to follow in practice. So all these things, all these instances could help us in identify, could be taken into account as an ethical problem. Uh, and there is a scholarly consensus that what could be an ethical problem. So I'll share that literature later with all of you. Okay. So what the general understanding about that, how one could identify, suppose somebody wanted to work on gender issues, okay, some divorcee migrated women. So in that context, somebody wanted to document the lively history of those women who have experienced some trauma, violence. So automatically the question of ethics first needs to be addressed, rather before proceeding towards the documentation of their experience. So here issues with consent, whether that person who you are like to interview and to publish the story, whether that person is really ready to accept the way you are going to publish it. So all these issues are emerging with it. Okay, then the most immediate, see, issues with authorship is not just about the conflict between authors and the subject which he or she have interviewed, or whose story the concerned researcher have covered. It is also about the non-subject things, like you take into account the staffs who have helped you in conducting or preparing the draft, and also it is also about the institution who have supported you. Okay, so here authorship is the claim of authorship not found really conflicting with the author and the people who have supported in preparing the draft in the form of subject or non-subject entities. Authorship is also contested about that among the authors. Okay, like more than one people are involved in a particular producing a work. So in that context, there must be a consensus or shared agreement uh, among those who are contributing collectively towards it. So are they really they have got due recognition? All of whether all each of them got due recognition while producing that work. So so here we are finding the conflict between author and the authors. Okay, that regarding the orders, like you have come across with those works that where you are getting multiple authors, and the first author, second author, third author. So usually in general understanding, the first author to become a first author is a very prestigious thing. So so in that context, actually, if somebody is getting the status of first authorship, so it is necessary to evaluate whether the person's claim to the first authorship is really been complementing with substantive contribution towards that work. So that's the concern through which we are getting conflict among the authors, and also about the viewpoints. Okay, like while in a teamwork, like you can take into account the work produced by the institution, the departments, the centers. So here that researchers who are part of it, so they may have different viewpoints about a particular study or a problem. So how far the all these viewpoints they got equal respect while producing the work, and also the authors or the people or the person who have contributed towards it, how far they have given the due recognition towards that. So it's very difficult to how to settle the conflict persisting among authors, because if this conflict will not be settled down, if this conflict will not be handled by the authors among themselves, then automatically it may offer the possibility for conflict in the subsequent years. Okay, where the role of publishing house and the role of the editors found to be more prominent in order to towards responding such kinds of conflict. Okay, and another thing is that there is also necessity to that. Suppose I am publishing something, so whatever I have made the publication, I need to be accountable for that. I need to be responsible for that publication. So if any issue arises in future with regard to my opinion, whatever been published, so I must have the conviction, I must have the um, capacity to stand that okay, to take the responsibility, okay, that the opinion or the generalization the which I have made in the paper, so I am responsible for that. And if any question is occurring about the credibility or in terms of harming any people or in terms of harming, creating, affecting anyone's emotions, so in that regard also the author is necessary to be accountable. Then also another issue that the why standardized ethics pattern needs to be followed, that to restrict the prevalence of ghost authorship and honorary authorship. Like I think you have come up across of many examples like those in the early career people, they are not they used not to get sufficient due recognition in terms of authorship. But so far as the groundwork is concerned, that most of the groundwork is being done by those early career researchers. So, and also sometimes that may be in need of the money also, that authorship can also be bought. Okay, so in that regard actually somebody is a author but he's not getting due recognition, not getting due recognition, while the other one is claiming that. So in that case actually we are getting the dilemma. And while coming to the also the ghost authorship, that here we are getting that ghost, the possibility of ghost authorships are occurring in such context who generally wanted to be uh, um, hide their own identity. They are writing in a different name, but they don't wanted to reveal their identity because they used to sigh about the publicness. Then also they use them might have some kind of anxiety that if my ideas will be questioned, so I need to have accountable. So in that context it is best to be the ghost authorship. So here demand for the concerned research work will be escalated. So it's about that the research ethics basically aims to that how to also address this issue, and also finally to ensure the due recognition, because ensuring due recognition is a we are countering some of the literature people who have started writing, like the scholar like Atulvi Nair and Sriparnath Chattopadhyay, that those who are actually started writing, being the scholar from the South, Indian scholars, they have started writing their questioning that the accusation of authorship has gone to them who are already in an advantageous condition with regard to access to technology, with regard to access to that who the having the citizen of a developed nation. So now gradually some of the writings are coming up. Actually, it is now emerging as a research arena, that the way we are learning, knowing authorship, okay, the way student, the scholar is getting the impression, okay, I need to be an author and I need to make some certain sacrifices, make some certain compromises. For that I need to follow the guidelines established by the funding agency, the global intellectual community. But how far they are really about sensitive enough to recognize or to address the concerns with the historical injustices? Okay, so that also needs to be addressed. So now we'll proceed towards that. What actually this slide is about, like that I already told you about this, that how actually we are going to see the genesis of authorship emerging out of the proliferation of or expansion of the ethical codes. Okay, then the other context is emerging out of the critical writing. Okay, those who have written about the historical context and the philosophical context. So, like one author. Just me let me read out 1 second. uh, Lisa Ed. Okay, so Lisa Ed, she has written the concept of authorship and historical perspective. So what she is offering the argument that authorship, the essentially not evolve with a kind of discourse. So that's why that in order to understand authorship, we need to go to the framework. We need to go by the history, where with the advent of modernity, that with the expansion of printing technology, the authorship as a concept found to be prevalent. Then particularly it is with the expansion of capitalism with a focus on industry driven knowledge production, also the idea of authorship or concept of authorship found to be escalated. Okay, so this thing we'll discuss in the next slide. Okay. Hmm. So then, how to determine authorship as ethical? Okay, so basically, I'm trying to here the definitions which I have taken into account, like and that so far as the present day research scholar are concerned, or present day scholars who are in teaching and research. So they are actually, while trying to explore that what exactly the codes, who are those committees who able to provide us a generic understanding about the ethical principles. So I have taken into account some of them, like yeah, you must be aware about the Academy of Social Sciences, Social Research Association, British Sociological Association, American Psychological Association, and of course, being the part of political science. So there is also the American Association of Political Science, and and of course the COPE, the Committee of Publication Ethics. So I think all of you are very much aware about the existence of the COPE. So Committee of Publication Ethics, we generally, while we are trying to search any journal, or trying to submit any our paper into that. So basically, the details in the home page, but while you're opening the home page of the concerned journal, so the journal used to, those who are part of it, they used to write that this journal is a part of Committee of Publication Ethics. So Committee of Publication Ethics is basically, it is a group of scholars or the body where which provides uniform guidelines that how ethics needs to be followed, and it has specific guidelines for the authors. So particularly during the if we go by the genesis of Committee of Publication Ethics, so and its web page, so you will found that there is a particular section on authorship, that how the guidelines of authorship needs to be framed, and most of the scholars sorry journals who are part of it, they used to abide by that guidelines. Similarly, while coming to the other courts or committees, so you will also found that there are specific guidelines given to for the authors in terms of instruction and what ethical standards they need to be followed. It is to be there, and if the scholarly manuscript is have to make the declaration that he or she has followed the ethical standard as per the prescription or as per the provision offered by the concerned journal. Okay, so nowadays actually we are countering such kind of courts and committees which are already available, which will guide us that how to be ethical while conducting a field study and while also going for the publication. So, so at least we now, at least we do have certain standardized framework. Okay, being for the research scholar, for the scholars who are working in the research institute or universities. So sensitize regularly that if they wanted to publish anything, if they wanted to go for conducting any kind of research field work, so if it need ethical clearance, so it needs to be passed by the concerned board. But how far it is really effective, or how far really it is very much conscious about the ensuring the ethical process, that is also a that also needs to be examined or explored. So what I say that it is opening of a new arena of research, that how ethical codes are being set, and also it has been societal geographical implications, like you may find scholars who are coming from the abroad, they are been part of a very robust institutional review board in their universities, while comparing with the in case of India or the southern states. So we are getting the gap. So that thing also needs to be examined subsequently by the scholar. So here actually I have taken the definition of American Psychological Association, which defines what constitutes authorship. So it is saying that authorship encompasses not only persons who do the writing, but also those who have made substantial scientific contribution to a study. Okay, so this definition found to be very expansive and also found to be very inclusive, because maybe a synopsis, maybe a research paper, maybe also developing a curriculum for a course. So, how far actually the concerned person is really sensitive to acknowledge the contributions who have made to develop that assignment or that research work in terms of ideas, in terms of offering the help. So, such kind of recognition actually enable us to be claimed ourselves as scientific contributor. So here the entire scientific writing consequential narrative to your the content which you are producing, but also recognizing that how far actually you are trying to you have acknowledged the established ideals, uh, the ideas of equity and justice with regard to the claim of authorship. So, so there is the policy. Each publication house or each the code offered by the association, they do have policy, and it allows recognition of all those who made major contributions. But there remain one major problem, that one can mean that some researchers still will not get the credit they deserve. So, like you have come across with the articles, like uh, generally we found such kind of examples. Like some scholars, they just mention that okay, they have really indebted to those persons who are working this institution. But here they are not specifically pointing to any one of them who might have critically enabled them to produce that work. So it's very difficult, and also it's very challenging that how adequately in an with an equanimity that the concerned researcher is able to acknowledge the contribution of each in the publication process. Then the authors on papers in that what American Psychological Association format is concerned, and other publishers journals are concerned. So traditionally were listed with no explicit information about who did what. Okay. So just generally about the, like you have accessed some library or institutional facilities, you just mention that you are not here essentially authors are not they didn't found in a recognizing with the explicit information that who is actually who provides this information and who actually enable them to thought in this way. Okay, or somebody who have contributed that idea. So some information might be in from from the order of the names, but to the more well-known authors. Unfortunately, this can disproportionately impact, like I told you earlier, early career researchers and members of underrepresented groups. Okay, so here also concern lies with the early career researchers, like the early career researchers. I'll not just say the dimension that okay, as they don't have the contact, they don't have the brand value, okay, but they are also very much eager to, rather than questioning, they are also very much eager to that okay, if I am attaching with this person, then automatically my brand value will will build. So anyway, these questions are need to be subject to contestation, but being a researcher, one must be aware about all these kinds of concern. Then what Committee on Publication Ethics have provided the definition that it reads that authorship can refer to individuals or groups that create an idea or develop the publication that disseminates the intellectual or creative work. However, appropriately acknowledging roles and contribution is not always a simple task. So it's very difficult. I told you earlier also that it's very difficult to acknowledge. It's very complex to acknowledge the role and contribution of each person who are critical in developing your research. So, in that context, the responsibility of the journals are to be to encourage, to provide clear, transparent guidance and policies for authors on providing authorship credentials. While authors must be responsible for adhering to such policies and discipline specific guidelines. So, while you will definitely, some of you have rich experience about the submission process and how the concerned journal they communicated to you that you need to make a declaration so that your authorship credential will be established. You need to also clearly mention that whether your work is not involving any kind of conflict of interest, and are you really the author of that work, or anyone who is associated with your work. So are you, so far as the acknowledgement aspect is concerned. So here it is not just the, this definition is not saying about that only the concerned author to be ethical. Okay, only the person who wanted to get her work to be published, that person needs to be only ethical. But so far as the publication houses, the journals, they also need to, they are also responsible for providing a clear cut, transparent guidelines to the concerned author. Okay, so in this way, actually, it is a two-way interaction process through which the ethical practices could be expanded, and it is assumed that by following this pattern or in a standardized format, automatically we can claim that we are able to recognize or we are able to provide due recognition to the to those who have really produced this work. Then there are also questions over a range of issues relating to authorship may arise at any point from submission to post publication, and journals should have policies and processes in place for handling this range of circumstances. Okay, so here it involves the responsibility of journals, the editors who are in charge of that, or the editorial team, that how they are actually in a responsible manner guide the concerned author to be accountable for their work. But despite all these things, issues with accountability always found to be in a form of contestation. Okay, and this committee also provides key information resources for authors, core policy guidance for editors, notes on the scope of submission guidelines, resources for managing pre and post publication authorship disputes, then guidance for institutions to manage and support authorship integrity. Okay. So I want to suggest or advise that if each one of us would be able to go through in a regular form, like how COPE is changing its guidelines, how it is modifying its guidelines, and how far actually its guideline is also having parallelly reflecting the ideas followed by the other committees. So such kind of understanding will actually enable us to think in a more comprehensive way that how ethical practices needs to be followed while claiming towards the authorship. Then, as I told you, that the concept emerged as the result of a number of related influences: technical, philosophical, political, socio-cultural, legal, economic, and literary. And most important to understanding the concept is recognition that authorship, especially humanistic or literary, has been almost exclusively limited to individual writings alone earlier. Okay. But moreover, complexity occurs to the concept when multi-authored scholarly work and concerns with plagiarism reported and identified. So I think recently some of the news we have countered, like some publishing brand, they have retracted the work of certain scholars on the ground that the concerned publication does not meet the standardized criteria of their journals. So here, no doubt, it may create a sense to the community, to the academic community, to be alert, to be aware that whatever they are going to submit, so they must follow the standardized pattern, and they must follow the ethics and follow the proper procedures. But at the same time, here there is a question also occurring on the concerned publishing house, that why, to what extent it is not responsible for that while accepting that submission, why actually it have not raised that issue. So so authorship here is not merely about a very simple thing that you have submitted and published it and you become an author. Okay. So all kind of such kind of instances informing us that whatever we are writing, whatever we are producing, are we really responsible for that? Then secondly, if any dispute is arising with regard to our the claim of idea, then at that point time, that whether the concerned author is ready to have the mechanism, certain mechanism, so that their grievances could be adjudicated. Okay, so such things actually open up the role of editors. Okay, how actually editors responding towards those kinds of issues where they have already have given the approval for publications and it is already published, but in subsequent somebody raised question about that publication. So how far actually editors are themselves really democratic enough to open up to that question? So is there any kind of suitable adjudicator mechanism? Because here the point of view of authorship will also not need not to be sidelined.
correct, correct.
Okay, if the publishing house, they are believing in dissemination of knowledge and knowledge to be democratized, so they also need to be sensitive enough that the due recognition needs to be given with an opportunity to being heard properly, both the parties. Okay, those the person who produced it and the person who
नहीं इसमें
trying to
नहीं है इसमें
questioning the authorship
नहीं है
of the other person. So such kind of things are actually have started to increasing day by day,
तब तुम जब
and
चलाते थे
and it is actually making the
बेटा
task
लखविंदर सिंह
more
जी सब
complex
हमारे
for
साथ में आ रहे
the
हैं अरे मुझे उनका
person.
नंबर दिला दो किस पे हाँ उनके तो बेटे
Okay, so the responsibility of authors is
वही
the
तो
very much
वही तो
central theme
प्रेसिडेंट
while
से भी बात करें
we are
अच्छा
going,
रिजल्ट कौन
we
देगा
are trying to read about the existing ethical codes
नहीं नहीं
or
नहीं
guidelines,
बैठ बेटा
and also the responsibility of
अभी
publishing house. So the point here is that author must bear the
अरे
responsibility
मैं तो
both
करवा
to
रहा हूँ
safeguard the proper interest of those involved in or affected by their work,
इकोनॉमिक्स में
and to
पढ़ाते हैं ना
share
लखविंदर सिंह
their analysis report, their findings accurately and truthfully.
का
So here the question,
पीएचडी
the concern with accountability is coming into picture. Then they also need to consider the effects of their involvements and consequences of their work on its misuse for those they study and other interested parties.
मैं कंक्लूजन
And
में
if you
हाँ
could take the
हाँ
writings of the British Sociological Association, so they pointed out
वो
that
रहेगा
sociologists should note that there are national laws and administrative regulation. So they need to abide by the Data Protection Acts, the Human Rights Acts, copyright, and also the labor laws. So that may affect the conduct of their research, data distribution, storage, publication, rights of research subject, and of sponsors and employers. So in today's context, while actually technology is a very much expansive stage, and where already we are having AI tools, and most of the database are becoming digitalized. So in that context, actually, the responsibility of author has now becoming increasing. So the person concerned who wanted to get the work published, so the person must be aware about all these kinds of dimension. But those who are the new one, those who are have started to develop their initiate their career with regard to that, so in that context, how they will be sensitized. So here the role of the institution is coming, the role of the publishing house is also coming, and also the role of the specific government regulation is also coming. Here, actually, I have pointed out some examples like the submission procedures. Like some journals, they are clearly mentioning
वो
that abstracts involving primary research rather than reviews or
हाँ हाँ
conceptual analysis must have received appropriate ethical approval and followed the appropriate standards of ethics in research. So so here the person concerned who is working in the maybe in a university setup or research organization, so that person need to get the ethical clearance. But here also concern arises how far the ethical boards are really responsive towards that. Is it a routine affair like universities 200, 300 faculties. So it's very obvious they are writing continuously, and also they are having PhD scholars, so who are enrolled in a routinized manner. Okay, so how far actually, so far as the clearance aspect is concerned, is really been conducted in a routinized manner. Okay, that also a question needs to be understood or surveyed. How far actually our university system is open to that? No doubt, most of the now most of the universities they are having the ethical board, but are they really going on so far as their functional activities are concerned in a routinized manner, whether they are encouraging that each day, or they are likely to go for ethical clearance procedure, any proposal what they have received. Okay, so these things needs to be, that's the limitations with uh, the that the process. Then the general dimensions coming under most of the guidelines, like what authorship is, and that what constitutes authorship. Then which I have already discussed. Then authorship credit, that how far actually the concerned publication house or the journal have taken care of the issue of authorship credit, to whom to be considered as author, whom not to be considered as author. So usually they provide an authorship declaration, a format to the concerned author, that where the concerned author or group of authors, they have to recognize, or they have to acknowledge the administrative authority over the researcher, procuring funding, all these things. Then also the provision of the student author, like while a supervisor is publishing a work, or while nowadays we are coming across those publications where both supervisor and the scholar they are offered the case of student author is being recognized. And also besides the PhD scholar, like some ideas we may get being a teacher while taking classes, like while discussing that we may counter some critical thought, we may counter some enlightening question with while having discussion with our students. So in the, and if it is such ideas are going for the publication, so how far the concerned teacher is really taking care of those who have raised those kinds of thoughts. Then statement how to acknowledge significant contributions to the project that do not arise to the level of authorship. Then also agreement of contributors, that contributors they need to sign the agreement as per the conditions of the concerned journal. And now already we are dealing with that, we are trying to ensure that most of the, our submission process needs to be free of plagiarism, or having a limited amount of similarity index. Okay, then also the principle of seniority, that whether that is in terms of the status of a powerful researcher or in terms of knowledge contribution, so that to be addressed. Then authorship policy, that where we are getting a statement that academic departments should develop and disseminate clear authorship policies to the faculty and also the scholars. Then review and approval of the manuscript. Suppose a work is been produced collectively and it gone for publication. So if review have come up, uh, so in that context, that how far each of the contributor have got an opportunity in the process of review, and whether they are really approval, they providing the approval to it or not. So all these things matters, and also of course the authorship order that I have already discussed. So these generally those dimensions are found to be prevalent in most of the guidelines. So these are the examples through which we would be able to understand that how actually the association between authorship and research ethics is linked. So authorship is not simply about merely about publishing something and get recognition. Authorship, by going by these standardized ethical procedures, that here the issues with concern with the marginalization, the exploitation could be addressed, and that's why now, along with the demand for knowledge production, so this it wanted to be it need to be supported with the ethical readings, and things are being provided to us in terms of coming up ethical procedures, all these things. So so it is creating a transparent system. Okay, but uh, whether there is any alternative thought to it. Okay, so that's with actually the role of social science scholars begin. Okay, like how far definitions which are provided by various committees or ethical codes really informed about the historical justice with regard to the claim of authorship or due recognition of authorship. Like you take into example of that the here I would like to share the writing of Atul Viner, who actually discussed the concerns with regard to the academia, both colonial and modern, owes an intellectual debt to the sidelined native scholars. So, if we consider the case of that, how actually globally ethical standard is being framed, so in that regard, we are getting the dominance of um, the advanced nations, or the dominance of those scholars who are were part of the Western society, or particularly who located themselves that having they are recognized as scholars, not just about being the part of a particular advanced language like English, and also like mm, the colonial scholars. So here he is writing extensively about, like, while now India is trying to researching on the ancient thoughts, or the literary work which are produced during the colonial era. So here, that those texts who are being translated by the most famous scholars of the British scholars. So he is actually contesting that how some of the scholars, those who have established themselves as authors in the eyes of the global academia, how they have sidelined the contribution of the native scholars in shaping their ideas. Okay, so I'll share that article with the Vivek, and and I hope he will disseminate it. Then role of AI. Of course, the today's we can discount the role of AI concern with relating to the chat GPT, so all these things. So, so here basically, no doubt, a lot of information, lot of writings are already available in the public domain. So, in that context, actually, that how author is going to locate the idea or just repeating that idea, like concern have raised, like as we are talking about the issues of multiple authorship. So in that context, we are only getting some of the ideas which have got a repeated focus by multiple scholars. Okay, so in that regard, also that we need to be aware about, to be creative about the idea of the authorship. Then there must be consciousness initiatives needs to be undertaken at the level of researcher, universities, and research institution that I have already informed you. Okay, that how far actually we do really adhere to that, whether we really believing that the ethical practices needs to be followed in an uniform manner, routinized manner. Then also issues with the generic text or scholarly work, that in that regard how actually authorship needs to be claimed, like somebody is writing textbook for the school, for the general textbook for the classroom teaching, and scholarly work which is producing advanced knowledge. So in that regard, the authorship also are having issues, and how it to be recognized, that is actually opening up new arena of research. So with this actually I am ending. If any comments or any questions, uh, uh, you may uh, ask, and also of course anything you want to share with me.
ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Jyotir ma'am. Actually, after your lecture, we have scheduled to senior professor lecture Professor C.L. Dadhichi sir, the former director of research, Reserve Bank of India. So sir has joined 4 o'clock, and madam sir has listened your half lecture, I think. So
Hello sir, hello sir,
sir,
namaskar.
please unmute yourself. Madam, sir is also former editor of the Journal of Economics and Agriculture, which has been published by the RBI. Yes, ma'am. Sir, आप mute हैं sir.
Okay sir,
दधीची sir.
sir, it's an honor to meet you sir.
Sir, please
Actually
unmute
my
yourself.
camera is not
It's
working.
it's a my pleasure. It's
Yeah.
a my pleasure. But your talk was very nice. It has added many dimensions to my knowledge also. So thank
Thank you
you.
sir.
So it was a blessing in disguise that I was sitting here, so I could have benefit of your talk also.
And
It's a
sir,
Thank you sir,
pleasure.
actually,
thank you.
I think if uh, uh, my information is correct, so madam is also belong from the, I think madam has given her services 5 6 year in Utkal University. I think where
I say, oh,
from
yeah,
Bhoi
yeah.
sir
There
is
were
belong. Yes,
boys there now.
yes,
My
yes.
friend, I have many friends from the Utkal University. One is Professor Boy. Then
Ha
this
ha.
Patra is also there. Ranjit Patnaik is there. We have a
Yes,
Sau.
Professor Barendra Bhoi is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
now there. Ha.
He's my colleague. He was my colleague in RBI. And then
Okay.
after retirement, we are living in the same area. So morning walk partner is there. But now he has joined the Utkal University. So, but December his term
He's
will be over. He was telling,
but
I'm
he
not.
is doing well, sir. He is actually enlightening the academia over
Ah,
there.
right, right.
Repeatedly
He very,
writing.
right, right. He's very
Sir,
nice, very nice, very knowledgeable.
sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, sir,
No, it's my
his
pleasure. Thank
party of
you.
You start your lecture.
No, no
So
I
problem.
actually, ma'am, actually, I have a doubt, ma'am,
Yes,
on your
yes, you
lecture.
yes.
can discuss. You can discuss, Astos. No, no problem. You can discuss to
Uh,
ma'am.
so,
After
ma'am, actually, you did not talk about edited books. So there is a confusion that what actually is a edited book, and because edited book is also written by some author, the chapters are written by different authors. So why it is called edited book, and how is that
Ah,
dispute resolved on the basis of authorship? Who is being credited with the author of the book, or why some particular XYZ is called the editor of the book, no author in that book? Why it is so? So I want explanation on that part.
Asutos, that so far as edited book is concerned, that whatever the guidelines are suggesting, they are specific points that how edited books to be framed. But I just told you na, that so far as contestation with the idea of authorship is concerned, like while we are getting normative, while we are getting idealized, that in authorship we should give equal or due recognition to each one who have contributed towards that. Okay, but while we are coming to the ratio, like benefit ratio, so actually it is not happening like in a in an equanimity form, like somebody have edited, like if we are considering the API framework, like for edited book there is a high score, but contribution to the contributor contributing to that edited book, being as a person by contributing a chapter, that is not securing high mark in the API score. So these things needs to be actually resolved actually. Actually it is open, we need to, being scholar, actually we need to write it about. Actually I think some of the journals must be there who must be increasing the critical thoughts with regard to the existing ethical codes or conduct. So it needs to be come out. Okay, that how actually it is creating a sense of exclusion on the part of the concerned author, not
So, but
benefiting
actually, ma'am,
sorry, sorry,
so
Astos sir,
since
Astos sir.
edited
After
book is
sorry, Astos ji. Actually,
like there we are getting two types of, one is purely edited book and other one is about the co-author. Like
hmm.
if you go by the format of some of the are you a teacher, Asutosh?
No, no, no. I'm a research scholar, ma'am.
So actually, some of the formats they are providing in the format itself, they are mentioning whether you are a co-author or not. Okay, in institutional practices, we are getting some variations. Like while submitting the performa of your annual performance, that the column in your publication, that in case of the edited book, so they are mentioning the
Hmm.
word co-author. Okay, so if you are a co-author, automatically you are getting your name to be placed in the front page in the
No.
of that book. But being just a contributor to that book, you are not getting your name found to be reflected on the main the front page book. Okay, so that is the technical thing. But the point is, suppose I wanted to write an edited book, and
Hmm.
I want to publish it with a publishing house. So I need to
Hmm.
follow the
Hmm.
guidelines, whatever the guidelines given by that publishing house. So each publishing house, they have specific format. So if I want to publish it, then automatically I have to and need to be make visible my work. I need to abide by that. It hardly offering any scope, or you could say the little scope to contest that idea. So I don't know actually. Maybe such things may come up gradually. Maybe that consciousness or awareness process when it will be expand. So it may come up. Okay. So um, I think for the time being, I have that just that answer. Okay.
No.
And Nitish Kumar, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. Namaste. I Nitish. I am research scholar at University of Delhi. Ma'am, actually, I want to
Yes.
question that if I write a research paper in guidance of someone like supervisor, some seniors, then who will be the first author and who will be second author?
Hey, in the synopsis preparation process or in the writing of your
Writing of
dissertation or
research
thesis?
paper along with PhD, along with PhD, this aside of PhD, I writing an independent research paper. So guidance of anyone.
So
Who
they
is
are
first author or
where
second?
see, one thing is that uh, whatever journal you have chosen, so that journal must have the provision on autonomy, authorship autonomy. Like American Psychological Association, it contains a section on its policy contains a section on the about the authorship autonomy. Like somebody who is working under a supervisor, but that scholar wanted to publish his work in his own name. He merely just wanted to acknowledge that my supervisor or this person helped me, but essentially not ready to share the authorship with that person. So there is here we are getting the distinction between the authorship and the contributors. Okay, those who helped you, but the guidelines here are saying that it varies that who actually to be an author in that process, whether the contributions are really being able to equally be treated as an author, that is a very difficult task to determine. We are only having the acknowledgement section is there, the declaration is there, where the concerned author is writing okay, I am acknowledging the contribution and this, but finally it is not about reflecting that while you search the get it published that they are the authors. Okay, but you have the autonomy, what I understand. Okay, you have the autonomy if you are producing, if you have the strong conviction, if you have the strong thought that what you have put your hard labor and developed it, so you should go for independent submission. Of course you may acknowledge the contribution of others, but you may continue with your own. But while you are going towards with a multiple author publication process, that the first right is that you need to be treated as the first author, not just being a teacher. I am saying that even in our center also we are encouraging that the scholars needs to be the first author, because finally it is his efforts. The job of supervisor is to guide him or her, but finally the work need to be done by the entire field work, everything is done by the concerned research scholar. And if we will not follow that practice, then what to be teaching about ethics thing. Okay, so you should have that courage to stand for to go for that. Oh, actually, sir
Want to
is
meet you.
about to speak, no?
Ma'am, one question. If
No,
I
no, no,
want to
Nitish
meet
ji, no,
you,
no,
meet with
no,
you.
Nitish ji. Now we will not
Okay,
take.
thank you.
Yes.
A
So
very
thank.
good
Okay,
evening.
then.
So thank you so
Okay.
much, Jyotir ma'am. And in next our upcoming program, sure I will invite to you, and because it was a very excellent session, and our participants want to uh, uh, ask more question, but the time is not allowed us. So for this reason, next time, sure we will invite to Jyotir madam. And so
Mhm.
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, and over to you, Manorma ji.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful lecture. Uh, a very good evening, everyone, once again. So, I welcome you all for today's session, which is on designing research paper from blending topics. And our speaker with us for today's session is Professor C.L. Dadit, sir, who's a former director of Research Reserve Bank of India. Sir has a 40 years of experience with rural financial institutions, including Central Bank of the country, National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, which is NABARD, and specialized techno-financial institutions like National Development Board. And Sir has also worked on various projects in India and worldwide. Apart from this, he has attended various national and international seminars and conferences. He has a number of books under his name. Name a few. Recent Farm Cooperative Credit, which was published in 1977. Second is Management through Folk Wisdom, which was published in 2012. And he has also co-edited a book titled Light of Globalization, Indian Context, which was published in 2017. And Sir has also number of papers published under his name, and the list goes more than 90. I will not be able to uh, take the names of all the papers he has got and published in various renowned journals. But I would still name a few of them, which are How to Ease Farmers' Fear of the New Laws. Second is As a Lockdown Lingers, Keep a Watch on the Farm Sector. Third, amid fall in economic growth, government must give priority to this sector to revive growth. So on and on, the list can go on and on. But here, because I was going through your CV, sir, and it runs into pages, so it would not be possible for me
Not
to
possible to write.
right, exactly. So, but it gives us the idea that yes, you have contributed a lot to this discipline and to the sector. So, I wish that people will, students here, scholars here, will learn and get the most of your lecture. So, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for your kind words and
Yes.
giving the detailed my contribution. Though I have sent a brief CV also, which could have helped you, but anyhow, giving more is better than giving less. And as you know, specialists are those persons who knows more and more about less and less. So my contribution is now I would be talking to you about less and less and not on more and more. So this is a part. But now coming to the subject which I would be talking about, you would be putting my that PPT on this. I have sent my PPT to Professor
Yes,
Vikas
yes, sir.
Kumar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
If
Sure.
you can put it across,
Yes. Yes.
it would be very nice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in the till that I am just covering some of the
Yes, sir. Yes,
aspects.
yes.
Yeah.
Please give me.
Yeah.
Manorma ji, it's possible. You are mute. You are mute, Manorma ji. Please unmute yourself. 1 minute. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's sharing. She's sharing. Please.
Okay.
Because sir, what about the attendance of the previous session? We have not get any seat.
Hello.
What about the attendance of the previous
At the
session?
end of the session, we will send. No issue.
Okay, please send it.
Yes, sure, sure, sir, sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
It's fine. No problem. Uh, at the outset, I would like to mention that writing style or writing skill is important for a research paper, but equally important is the contents of a research or quality of the research, as Professor Shukla has mentioned in the inaugural session. That if there is a quality of the research, contents are rich, then your paper language aspects may be improved by the editor